Dark Side of Franchising ebook, still free. We'll put a link at the end of this video. But today we're going to look at, can you sell your franchise? And we're often asked by buyers, if you do buy a franchise, can you resell it? The short answer is yes. In most cases, you can certainly sell your franchise, but there are some major considerations that most people don't know that can be very costly if you learn about them too late. We're going to look at that today on Franchise Inspectors. Now we'll start with the good part. If you do everything right, reselling your franchise can be very profitable. Some owners, they will actually start with the plan of selling the franchise as their main goal. And we see many buyers invest in, we'll say, a service-based franchise with a very low investment, usually under $100,000. We did a video on that lately. I'll put the link up above. $100,000 all in, and they build that business up. They're earning a very solid income in the meantime, and their exit strategy is to sell that business, say, for $1.5 million once they're done, and walk away, or maybe do it again or retire, depending where they are in their life cycle. Now, that is another benefit of a good franchise versus a small business. A franchise typically is going to have a greater chance of success and can actually command higher selling prices than an independent business. So if your strategy is to buy a franchise, build it up, and exit, sell that business, keep in mind the best franchises for resale purposes are those that have recurring revenue. Now, recurring revenue means the business provides a service that is required on an ongoing regular basis. So for example, if I have a cleaning franchise, it has 200 existing customers and I have a 90% retention rate, the new buyer knows that they are walking into a certain amount of ongoing revenue. A residential painting franchise, on the other hand, painting jobs aren't conducted every 2 weeks like you might do with cleaning. You're having to acquire new customers on a regular basis. So a new buyer does not know if their ability to acquire customers is going to be as good as the last owner. So that revenue can change. So those types of businesses may not always, but may not command as high a selling price. Now, on the flip side, however, you can often find great resale opportunities selling for less than the price of a new franchise where the first owner was just not very good at acquiring customers. And there's often bargains on the market to be had for anyone who's good at sales or client acquisition who can turn that business around. And if you're currently looking at buying a resale business, not selling your business, keep these things in mind as well. Recurring revenue, it's a little bit safer than non-recurring, but there are other considerations. But what do you need to look out for to make your selling experience a positive one? There's some scary things in here that everyone should know, and it's surprising how many people do not know these things. So first off, know your transfer fees. What is the transfer fee? That's an amount you must pay the franchisor when you sell your franchise. It can be a flat fee, it can be a percentage of what you're selling the business for, or it can be a percentage of the franchise fee. And this can make a huge difference in how much money you walk away with. It can cost you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars that you were not expecting, and will radically change the amount of money that you walk away with. So be sure you know what that number is before you invest. A really high transfer fee, high royalties, even high renewal fees when you renew your franchise agreement can make it very difficult to sell your franchise if that new buyer feels that those numbers are too high. Now, those fees, they are all listed in the franchise disclosure document that's provided by the franchisor, so just make sure you look at those. Number two, also check before you invest if the franchisor has first right of refusal. In some situations, it's written in the contract that you must give the franchisor the first opportunity to buy your franchise at a certain price. And only if they refuse can you then bring it to the marketplace. Also, and this is a huge one, does the franchise have the legal right in the contract to buy your franchise at the end of your term for what is called the depreciated value of assets? This is huge, so look in the agreement. In these scenarios, you could have built a massive business, say a restaurant, generating millions of dollars a year. The end of your term is coming up. You want to sell the business, but the franchisor can now legally buy your business based only on what your assets are worth. So the value of some used fryers, old ovens, slicers, that number is going to be very small compared to market value. Your business might be worth millions, and the franchisor with depreciated cost of assets could come in and offer you $50,000 or even less. Now, this type of clause is going to make it very difficult to sell your franchise because most people will catch that. So always be sure to check. Another major consideration is whether the new owner receives a brand new franchise agreement for the full term, or do they take over yours? So for example, if you buy a franchise with a 10-year term and in year number 8, you decide to sell your business, does the new owner only take over that 2 years remaining on that term before they must renew the franchise? That's going to cost them money. Or do they start with a fresh agreement and get the full 10 years? Many franchises give a new buyer a fresh term, but not all do. So be sure to check on that. Selling your franchise, obviously, with only a 2-year term is going to be quite difficult. Next one, let's not forget the non-compete clause. Franchises, they obviously don't want you doing the same type of business in that area if you sell your franchise or if you leave the system. So a non-compete clause prohibits you legally from doing so. So let's say you buy a painting franchise and you sell it, but you want to keep painting. In most cases, you can't. Sometimes a franchise is going to have a non-compete clause for up to 10 years. Now, most states don't allow that length of time anyway, but many do put it in. Now, even if it's legal or not legal within that state, the question is, do you want to be held up in court defending yourself? Be sure to check the non-compete in the contract as well as knowing your state rules. Now, in some cases, you've built up a strong business, or even if your business is not doing that well, another franchise owner in the same system might make an offer. Now, that's actually a benefit of owning a franchise. You might be able to circumvent the broker fee, which is usually around 10% for a Main Street business. Now, there's many more things depending on the situation, but it all ties back to your due diligence. If you buy a not great franchise with not great contractual obligations, selling that franchise is going to be much harder. If you buy a great franchise, you're great at running it, you build it up over the years, and you have a clear path to selling it, it can be a great exit strategy and even lead to early retirement. Every situation unique, so be sure to speak with a professional or franchise lawyer before you buy. And if you want to see what franchises are available in your area, give franchise inspectors, brokers a call. I'll put that link up above and our franchise education playlist down below. Thanks for watching.